Hi everyone, it's Elena here and thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy this lovely, fabulous spring extravaganza that Lavinia Stamps have put on for you all. For today's card, it's all about Bron and Pipin in the forest. And they have a little butterfly that's just hovering above Bron's hand. To make the background, I'm using Elements Inks Sahara, this lovely lime punch, and then olive. For stamping with VersaFine Clair Nocturne, Pinecone, Shady Lane, Rainforest, Bluebell, and then Monarch. And that's for all the stamping on the card. I'm also going to be using some yellow and white Posca pen just to do a little detail around the bottom. A white gel pen just to do some highlights on Pipin and Bron. A Stardust glitter pen just to put some shimmer onto our sun and onto Bron's wings. I'm also going to be using a quickie glue pen and some of this foil sheets just to do some dots around the card and among the tree. For the stamps I'm going to be using today is Tree of Courage and Tree of Hope. I'm using this lovely little foliage from the foliage set of 2. I'm using the butterfly from the butterfly collection, Little Pipin, Bron the fairy, Lavender and Bluebell, and the single fairy thistle I'm using, but I'm just using this top half just to add some interest to my ground. So let's get started. And I'm going to be using Element Sahara just to do my base colour. So I've put some onto my blending mat, giving it a good spritz with some water, and now I'm just going to pick up the ink using my card. So I'm just putting this around and just picking this yellow up, and then I'm just going to give it a quick dry with the heat gun. So going back to our blending mat, and the last colour to use is olive. So again, I'm just going to place that onto my blending mat, giving it a good spritz with some water, and now we're just going to concentrate on the very edge of our card. So you just want to go around the very edge, just picking this colour up. So we're just going to go around the very edge of a card. Dry it with a heat gun. Going back to the blending mat, and I'm just going to spritz this a little bit more with some water, and then we're just going to go round again, just picking this colour up. So we're just going to go round the very edge of our card, just building this layer up. So we're just turning the card around as we're picking this layer up, and another dry with the heat gun. Going to put some copier paper over where we have stamped her, and I'm just going to now stamp part of her wings and a part of her body. And then you need to cut this out so you've created a mask to go over her. And all I'm going to do now is just gently shade around where she is, just to fill this land in. So I'm just going to create a bit of ground for her. And then with a brush and some water, taking off the excess or dabbing onto your cloth, I'm now just gently going to blend this into my card. And I'm going to stamp this all in pine cone. And I'm going to stamp this on the other side. And there we have our trees already framing our card. So I'm just going to quickly, gently add a bit of brown to these trees. So just taking our time just to follow where all these branches are. Then with your brush, taking off the excess, and then we're just gently going to colour all of this in. So we're just going to take our time to colour our tree in. Just building that colour up. We've done our trees, and I've put the mask over her wings just to protect them while we are going to do some stamping around here. My stamp I'm going to be using is this little bluebell stamp, and I'm going to position that into place first. So I'm going to pick this up, and I'm going to be using VersaFine Clair Bluebell. And I'm only going to stamp the top half and a bit of the stem of it. So I'm just going to take this down a little bit more, and then I'm going to stamp it. In fact, I'm going to put some copy paper where I don't want it to stamp, and then just stamp it. And there we have our bluebell. And then I'm going to take my mask away, use a piece of copy paper to protect our tree, and then I'm just going to stamp another bluebell in second generation. So now we have two bluebells around by the tree. So I'm just going to use a piece of copy paper to keep that in place so that it protects our tree. Then I'm just going to work out where I want this bluebell to be. Stamp it in bluebell. So again, I'm just going down, just doing the top half of it, and then I'm going to move this across so that I can stamp it in second generation. And there we have our two bluebells. And I might just be able just to do another one here. So I'm just going to stamp that up. And we've got a very faint one in the middle. So I'm just going to pick the lavender up and stamp it in VersaFine Clair Monarch. So I'm just going to ink it up and then stamp. And then I'm going to create some more over on this side. So I'm just going to stamp it up and then give it a good ink using the same colour, Monarch. And we're just going to keep doing this in different heights, just building this corner up. So I'm just going to keep stamping around here. and then do another one up here. Just so that we're building up our scene. And then I'm going to go back and build this corner up using the same lavender. Going to be working on the trees now, so I'm going to be using this stamp from the Foliage Set 2, and I'm going to be using VersaFine Clair Shady Lane to stamp with, and I've already got it on my acrylic block, so I'm just going to ink it up, and now I'm just going to stamp this around the tree. So I'm just going to use the light green first, and we're just going to build up the leaves, and again around the branches, and we're just using this Shady Lane just to fill the tree out. Just going to create some more branches, so using the branch that came with your trees, I'm just going to ink it up in Pinecone and just create some branches coming off them. The next colour I'm going to be using is VersaFine Clair Rainforest, and I'm still going to be using this little stamp that we did to create our first lot of leaves. So I'm just going to ink it up, and then I'm going to stamp this in place. So I'm just going to turn this around and stamp, and then just stamp and just using two different colours just to help to create depth. So we're just going to ink this up and stamp these leaves over the card. And a few more up here. And we'll just do some more here. Just creating a nice tree scene using this leaf, this foliage. So now we have Bron and Little Pipin. Going to be using this single fairy thistle, and as again I'm just going to use this top half. So with just my finger and using VersaFine Clair Shady Lane, I'm now just going to pick that up and just stamp those little tops from the fairy thistle. So I'm just building some of this up, and I'm just going to stamp this random. I'm going to go back to using the bluebell, so I'm just going to use the stamp, bring it down so it's a little bit smaller, picking it up and using the same colour, VersaFine Clair Bluebell, I'm just going to ink the top half. Place a bit of copier paper over, stamp it, and then stamp it in second generation. And then I'm just going to go again, back over. I'm going to lay my copier paper down and then just stamp another one using the same stamp. And there we have our little butterfly taking off. I've cut out a circle that's roughly 1.25 inches in size, and now I'm going to position this into place. So I'm just going to use a blending brush and using the same colour Sahara as we did our background, using our blending brush, blending it onto my glass mat just so that I get a nice even coverage, and then I'm just going to flick this out just so that it's darker around the circle but goes lighter at the edge. And as you can see, our sun in the background. Just going to use this foliage stamp that came with the trees, and I'm just going to place it on my finger, and I'm going to be using Elements Olive, and then I'm going to use my finger just to stamp with, and then we're just going to create some little like grasses in the distance. Using the same stamp, I'm just going to go back to using Rainforest, using my finger just to ink with, and then we're just going to pop some random ones in this corner. So we're just building this up, and then again a bit more over on this side. So we're just creating a bit more interest among our lavender, and we can just bring this down here. So we're just taking our time just to stamp a bit more of this grass down here. So just working on Pipin now and just building up a bit of white highlights on him, giving him a bit of a white chest, and working on his head and ears just by smudging this white gel pen and just doing his tail. And then we're going to work on Bron again just by blending this white gel pen in. So you're just going to draw around her and then just smudge it in, just so that you get that nice gentle white highlight. And again on her shoulder, on the top of her arms, just using that pen and just gently smudging it. And we'll just do a bit underneath as well, along the underneath of her thigh, and just building it colour, just building the highlight up, and then just round the back, and then we'll just do some on her face. So just concentrating on her face and just doing a gentle bit of highlighting, and then on her palm, and then we'll do some on the butterfly, just on this wing here, just smudging that in, just so that you get a lovely light gradient. So I'm using this white Posca pen just around where Pipin and Bron are sitting, and I'm going to do some just around where the lavender is, just some little dots. And then with a yellow one, we're just going to do the same again, just following where we've put these little white dots just around Pipin and Bron, and then just do some randomly around the lavender. Going to be using the Elements Olive with my blending brush, and now just going to quickly just blend around the edge of our card. So I'm just concentrating on this bottom part, just by building this up a little bit darker. So I'm just going to build this up, just using my blending brush around this corner here, and then around this corner over here, and then I'm just going to do a bit more around the top of this corner as well. So with our blending brush, just blending this olive around the corners, around this edge, the top, and again over this side, just blending this colour in. And that's my mats and layers done, so that I can now glue it onto my landscape card. To finish off, I'm going to be using some of this foil onto my card. So I'm just going to follow some of these dots that we used from this stamp earlier. So I'm just going to do some random little dots, just using my quickie glue pen, just following some of these dots. And I think I'm going to do some foil dots just around the bottom here. So I'm just going to do some randomly just along this bottom, just so that it balances it out. So I'm just going to do some more. So we're just rubbing this over our foil dots just to create some sparkle. We're just going to keep going around and then using the other colour just to pick up where we did our blue dots, so we can just get some over here, lift it off, and then placing it over. I might have had something along here. And if I just lift this up, you can see the sparkle. So that's all on the bottom, and then as we come to the top, you've got all that nice gentle twinkle in the trees. Thank you for joining me again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the spring extravaganza. Take care, and I hopefully see you all soon. Bye for now. Bye!